Welcome to the Veteran Show. I'm one of the hosts, Levi Miller.
And I'm the other host, John Loehne. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. I'd like to welcome our guest, John Loehne. John is an Army veteran, and like me and Levi, he spent time up in the DMZ, although he's a baby compared to us two, but that's okay. John, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And I tell you what, let's just go ahead and start off. Give us a little bit of a background with your military career.
Okay. Well, I got all started actually back in high school, guys. My mom had remarried, and she married a reserve officer in the Air Force. And while I in junior high, I actually heard about the junior ROTC program at the local high school, and I wanted in.
Oh, okay.
So I got into the Air Force junior ROTC, and a little bit later, I got involved with Civil Air Patrol and Law Enforcement Explorers. And then when I got out of high school, well, while I was still in high school, actually, I signed up for the Army when I was only 17, with my parents' permission, of course, and went off to basic training right after high school. I mean, like 4 days after high school, I was gone.
Where did you take basic at, John?
Where did I what?
Take basic training.
Oh, I went to Fort Disneyland.
Oh,
Fort
wow. You hear that, Thomas? He got all the look, right? Okay.
Oh, where'd you do your AIT at, John?
I went to Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
That's what I was thinking it was.
They got a military intelligence school there.
Intelligence? Army?
I know, that's an
contradiction.
oxymoron.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, guys, because I'll say. Okay, how long were you in for?
I only did 4 years active, guys.
Okay, what duty stations were you at, just out of curiosity, besides Korea? We know you were in Korea.
Right. Right after AIT, I went to Fort Hood, Texas, 2nd Armored Division, Hell on Wheels.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And while I was with them, I actually got to go to Reforger. I went to what we thought was going to be the last one. The wall was coming down, guys. The wall was coming down. It was an exciting time to be over there.
Besides the beer tent at Graff and Beer?
Oh yeah, Graff. Who could forget Graff?
Yeah.
Hey, I got to tell you guys something real quick about Graff.
All right.
You know, we were armored, so we got APCs. I was in a M11A, 113A2. We still had the laterals, you know, for driving, and they still had those separate heaters for heating them things up.
Yeah.
I had a guy on my team that was from Arizona, and that brother was not going to have a non-working heater. He figured out how to get those things to work. So, fortunately for me, I had a good working heater in my 113. But one of the other teams, they weren't so lucky. And I see he's online right now. My brother Rodney Breen, throwing this out here. Sorry, Rodney. Anyhow, Rodney Breen, he throws in his mummy bag. And we had to get somebody in his mummy bag with him in the morning to thaw his butt out. No joke.
You know, you talk about those 113s. I learned quick to scavenge parts and a spare heater. Of course, don't get caught with a spare heater when you're in garrison. But I know at Fort Riley, for 3 years, I carried a spare heater. I had a spare heater all the time and would repair it if I had to change them out. The heaters were easy to replace in those things. But the igniters was the big thing in those heaters. Shows you how many times I worked on them. But if you blew that igniter, you had no heat. And it's not fun being out in the field cold without heat inside that tin can. So. So after Fort Hood, where'd you go? Korea?
Then I went to Korea, and after Korea, I went to Fort Drum. Now I'll never forget when I got my orders. We had a visit from the assistant division commander, General Mallory, Brigadier General Mallory. He came up to our site and he found out I got my orders. He said, "Where are you headed, son?" And I says, "I'm headed to Fort Drum, New York." He says, "Oh yeah, I remember Fort Drum. I gave a speech on the 4th of July in a snowstorm."
Wow. In Arizona. Okay. Ooh.
Now, let me tell you guys, Tom knows this. I'm a Uper. I'm from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But I signed up from Southern California because that's where I was living. My stepfather was stationed there at Fort Norton Air Force Base with the reserves. So anyhow, they all thought I was a Cali kid, so they were going to send me all these cold places.
Oh, you have them fooled, John. Yeah.
I had them fooled.
Yeah, Norton. Is that the one by Victorville?
San Bernardino. Right.
Okay, further. It's further west.
It's closed now. It's a real shame.
Well, they closed a lot of the small ones they had out there in the I-15 stretch because there was George at one time. There's a couple others. Of course, Fort Irwin's sort of up and running.
Oh yeah, I never got to go there, guys. I escaped out of that one too. When I was at Fort Hood, my company commander, he's like, "Oh, this boy is talking about San Bernardino all the time and all this stuff. I think he's going to go AWOL." So I had to stay in the rear with the gear and the beer at Fort Hood. But I'll tell you something real quick here. While I was there in the motor pool goofing off, no, not me. Anyhow, the phone rings. And lo and behold, here's my lieutenant out in the middle of NTC calling me from his Humvee. And I about jumped through the ceiling. I'm like, "What? What is this?" He's like, "I'm trying out this new stack phone, seeing how this thing works. What you up to, Lone?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing this, I was just BSing my way all the way through, guys.
Yeah, I spent, 15, 16 months at Fort Irwin, stationed there besides 2 rotations. And they could keep that place. Great. It was a good duty. I loved the duty there. Didn't like the location.
You didn't like it, huh, Thomas? Okay.
Oh, I'm not a desert person. Yeah, it was good duty. I learned a lot there at NTC, especially because I work with Ops Group. I was with Ops Group quite a bit. I did work with the Outforce some too. And but the duty I love, the location. They don't know what the color green is there besides the uniforms we had at the time. We didn't have we had the BDUs at that time. Well, John, we'll talk about Korea, but what I want you to do, because basically, like Levi, I'm dumbfounded what your MLS really was, besides working a radar site. What was your actual what was your MLS? And using Korea as a good example, because you had a live mission, what did you guys have to do and look for and see?
Okay. I like I said, I went to AIT there at Fort Huachuca, and that was kind of a funny thing because I signed up for being a 96 Romeo 10. When I got my orders at Fort Disneyland, they were sending me off to be a technician for X-ray technician, and they were going to send me down to San Antonio. Well, I opened my big trap and said, "Oh, hell no. I'm not doing that. That's not what I signed up for." Now, I mentioned Rodney Breen. He married a gal while he was in with us, and she actually went to that X-ray tech school, and she said the math was real hard. So I'm glad I opened my big trap because math is not my thing. Anyhow, I'm a 96 Romeo 10, which is ground surveillance radar operator.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't just the radars that we worked with. We worked with this other thing that was called RIMBAS. Was basically they had several different sensors that you planted in the ground.
Yeah.
After AIT, brothers, I have to admit, I didn't work very much with that RIMBAS. I was pretty much just a radar guy. I worked with the AN PPS 5, and when I was in Korea, I'll never forget when I first got there. I went through the turtle farm, of course. Y'all know what the turtle farm is. I guess Tom can explain to people on the radio program what it's about. But anyhow, I ended up going to Camp Hobie with Bravo Company 102nd MI.
Okay.
And my commander, my company commander, had his office in one of those old hooches, the Quonset hut.
Oh yeah, them the huts I used to be in back in '69.
And he wanted to see me. So here's my welcome to the unit, guys. I walk into his office, and right on top of his desk, sitting on top of his desk is a stuffed goat's head. There's crossed rifles and a helmet in front of his desk, camouflage all over the ceiling and everything. And I thought I just entered a TV set for some Vietnam movie or something. I don't know what to think about this guy. Turns out he's an old ranger, and he turned out to be pretty cool. He actually took us all down range and bought us one round. But anyhow, while I was sitting there waiting at my company, I was hearing all these stories about these guys going up on the DMZ. And let me tell you, at that time, I was gung-ho. I wanted to be one of those guys up on the DMZ. I didn't want to be back here in the rear at Camp Hobie. Did you hear me? I said the rear, Camp Hobie. So I finally get to go up there. They send me up to this radar site 6. And it was also known as the Twin Dragon OP. Because right next to it,
I'm familiar with that. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, they had a UN post right next to it. And supposedly they had this French racket radar that was supposed to be so much better than ours. I never saw the thing. It was a great mystery. But the building looked like a church. It had a big cross on it and everything. So they had them people up north fooled, I guess. But,
okay.
I'll never forget, we run lots of PT up there in them hills. You know where I'm talking about, Levi.
Oh, yeah.
And Thomas, it's hilly. There's mountains.
Yeah.
A lot of mountains, right.
And that general I was talking about, his first visit up there was with our command sergeant major of the division. They went and did PT with us, and they told us, they said, do the PT the way you normally do it. Well, we did these 12-mile runs up there. They was impressed, let me tell you. I mean, when they said fit to fight, we were fit to fight. So we did Taekwondo stuff and all that stuff with our PT and everything. My radar site, there was 13 of us GIs up there, and we had 4 Katusas. For those who don't know, that's Korean augmentation to the United States Army. That worked a long
Courtesy of
time.
Douglas MacArthur.
Yeah. So
Seriously.
And the other thing that this site was infamous for, because I counted them. We had our barracks down below, and we had to go up to our bunker to work our radar. So we worked shifts up there, usually a 12-hour shift. Well, you had to climb 101 steps to get up to that bunker.
Now, you guys were 24/7 with the radar, right?
Oh, yeah. 24/7.
I mean, I kind of figured they'd do the mission.
And not only were we working the radar, they had a weather station in there, and we had to report weather conditions every hour. And Lord help
Really?
us if we didn't call the detox in with that report.
So you're the one I need to. You're the one I need to shoot for not telling us about monsoon rains in the middle of an ambush one night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we cleaned that site up real nice, and like I said, the general and the sergeant major was really impressed with our site. And you just did your thing up there. It could get pretty boring, monotonous, sitting there with your headphones on your head, listening for stuff and looking at this screen. During the day, we had ship to shores, so you could look out there in the DMZ. Out there in the middle of the DMZ, the North Koreans actually had an outpost. And, they was always playing like out there down in the valley. They were trying to play like they're farming. So we had to count people out there, that looked like farmers or whatever, and we kept an eye on that little OP site all the time,
Right. Well, what GPs you was on, John, up there? I mean, OPs. What OPs you was on?
Like I said, Twin Dragon.
Twin Dragon. Thomas, where?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's changed names from 20 years prior, Levi. Because Twin Dragon, if I remember right, that's in the old 7th ID area. Once 2ID took that. Maybe it ain't, but you know how a lot of those OPs and guard posts and camps change names.
Right.
I'm trying to think of where it's at.
All I know is we took that main highway, right, out of Hovey. And
MSR1.
Right, we run MSR1 up to this village. What it meant in Korean, I guess, what they said was Golden Village. Had a big old arch right out there in the middle of the road. And we went under the arch, and then you turned left and headed up to our site there.
So you were up there probably west of Collier and Roulette. Roulette was up there on that. There's a road. You got Roulette and Collier. Levi remembers the old names better than I do. But
the nearest site.
So you were east or you were west of them. I think I know where you're talking at. You're near what they call OP Dora now.
The nearest site to us was Radar Site 7, which was over there by that little village of Torwan.
Freedom Village?
Yeah.
As they call it?
Right.
Because that's the only village that was up in that area. And
right.
Boy, those people, they, what was it, curfew for them was like 9 o'clock at night.
Right, they had to be in.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
But only certain, there's Mark Heathcote can tell you, because his wife's family's from that area. But there's really, and I've read up too, there's only certain people can live in that village, by the way. Not just any Korean can move up there.
Right.
So.
Well, I served with this guy, Private Puckett. He came to my site from Radar Site 7, so he'd been there before. And
Private Bucket?
Puckett. Puckett.
Bucket, all right.
I'll tell you.
Like Buckethead? Oh.
No, P. Puckett.
Puckett, okay.
Right.
Oh, Puckett, I'm sorry.
That's all right. And you can imagine what he said all the time when you told him to do something. But anyway.
Well,
You got it.
I'll shut up. Okay.
So Puckett, when I was on the free time down there at Tongashan one time, and he convinced me to take that bus up to Torwan. and we went up there, and of course, you just said it, we weren't supposed to be there. And we went into this restaurant and convinced them to play our kimchi tape that we had. It was Hair of the Dog by Nazareth. They piped it into the restaurant. Here we are eating bulgogi and stuff in this restaurant with all these rock soldiers. And they were just loving it. But I didn't do that, not me.
I hear you, John, right.
Hey, John, when were you over there? 90, 91 or 91, 92?
It was 90, 91. And Tom,
okay.
I just found out recently, because they weren't talking about it when I was up on Site 7. I pulled off of the site, must have been in August of 91. And
Yeah.
I found out that from one of the guys I served with there on Site 6, that in October they pulled us off of the DMZ. See, up until that point, we were permanent. That was a permanent post. So you didn't, like you guys, you Cow Scouts and them did them rotations. There was no rotation. Our thing was 6 months.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
My 6 month tour was 10 and a half, brother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I did 10 and a half months up there on the DMZ.
You was
well, yeah, because October 91 is when they fully turned that sector over to the rocks, and they pulled everybody off. And the radar sites, the patrolling, everything, the Rock Army took over it, and that was I was back over there as a contractor at that time, and I remember when they did the pullout. And in fact, 520th Infantry was up there, which used to be the 1st and the 17th with in the past. And I say that because Levi could relate to 1st and 17th. In fact, it was 1st and 17th till like 88. But 520th Sykes Regulars, as I like to jokingly call them, they were up there. Well, a month prior, they pulled off the Z from Mission, and 2nd and 503rd took over, and they ran the last month, and we turned it over to Rocks. 520th had to pull off because they were getting ready to do Bradley Nut training. I know because I was helping with the Bradley Nut training. So I have friends that...
Radar Site 6 got to be kind of infamous for several things. I heard about this story one time, and I've actually seen pictures now. I think it was back in 87 or 89. I'm mixed up on those exact dates, but there was one of these guys up there on Radar Site 6 that didn't put his parking brake on his Humvee, and it started to roll down the hill.
Oh.
They caught that sucker just before it went off over an embankment. But like I said, see how long that story stuck around? I mean, everybody talked about that for a long time after it happened.
See, now, they got a different name to it. There's a side up there. When I was back over there in November last year, John, 2015, for the 50th anniversary, we were at OP Dora. And, of course, that one is what I'm thinking was either 7 or 6, but they beefed it up. They call it Dora now. I don't think there was a Dora in the past.
I can't think of no Dora.
I think it changed the Dora, but see, the thing, that's still it's a UN site because they had in fact, when we got briefed there, we got the VIP tour. It was also that same site was set up as a tourist trap. You could see the tourists could go outside and look at the binos and look north of them, the K Sound and all that crap. But we got the VIP briefing, and in fact we had 2 New Zealand officers briefing us on. That's why I'm pretty sure this is a JSA site, and Joint Security Agency for those people that don't know what JSA is. That's part of the UN. But I know they were briefing us, and the one gentleman, we were talking. I sit there. He goes, "Yeah, downstairs they're doing the real look." And I said, "Yeah, I kind of figured that." And he started laughing. I said, "But I was really surprised. Here you already booked this OP Dora, and I see this damn tourist shop, and you see all these people up there. Like, what the hell is going on here?" Not too many years, 20 years prior, you wouldn't even thought of that. It's 50 years prior, and so it was kind of, it was 20, hell, I'm losing track of time, 30 years I'm at. 20 years ago, we were already off the Z, and but yeah, I want to say OP Dora would end up being one of the sites. I could be wrong, I don't know. It really changed. The guard towers are all new for Ouellette and Collier. The bunker lines are gone.
Wow.
There was a lot of overgrowth where it used to be cleared up. I mean, all and from the guard towers, I really didn't. It was hard to recognize some of the stuff. You know, now Freedom Bridge I did, but I mean,
they still
what's
have
that?
tank traps, didn't they?
Say again?
Did they still have tank traps?
You know, I didn't pay attention, and when we went up there on the new MSR one.
Okay.
And so it's a wider, bigger highway. You know, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember. So much has changed. Well, you know, it's like coming up to Collier. We were up at Guard Post Collier, and coming up to there, they had a blacktop road. There's one vehicle wide that ran all the way up to the tower. And I'm like, wow.
No way.
Right. now that's something else, Thomas.
Once we made our turn from Golden Village, it was all dirt road for us, man.
And John, that's the way it was for me also. I was there in 1969 to 70.
Oh wow.
So
yeah.
Well.
Now, hey John, where'd y'all stay? Tent City?
Say again?
And where you based?
Did I what?
Where did you guys stay? Well, where was your billeting at? Did you stay in Tent City? Or did you stay up at the OP permanently?
When I stayed up on the DMZ, we had our own barracks.
Wow.
Oh, okay. See, we stayed in Tent City.
Well, see,
but we were 30.
Our site had a permanent barracks, and we actually had our own cook. I mean, I'm telling you, this was a permanent post. We were up there all the time. We never left that site.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, unless you had to run back to the company or the battalion for something at Hobie, which I always make sure to do. See, a lot of people don't believe me, but at Camp Hobie, they had steak and lobster once a month. And
what?
I made sure I was there.
I don't blame you. Okay. Wow.
And nobody believes me. They all can't remember, but you know, I love food, so you know, this brother knows when there's some steak and lobster. He was there. But we had our own cook, and I recognized a lot of the stuff that was in the kitchen because brother he told us, he said, well, if you don't like our cooking, there's the kitchen. Well, some of us took him up on that. And, you know, the old block of government cheese and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. It was good.
Yeah, so you guys were that isolated. I didn't know that. See, this was all new information for me, too. And even though
those Catusas be in there cooking up stuff, too, you know, smelling up the kimchi place. You know, all the guys call them kimchi soldiers. Finally, one of them Catusas, they had it. They said, oh, yeah? You hamburger soldiers. I thought about that. I thought about that. It's like, I bet we do smell like hamburgers.
Now, back to when you were scouting, looking over the DMZ, what did you guys use for night-wise?
That's what I'm talking about. I just used the radar. I had to man the radar. We'd have two people up there in that bunker, and you actually had when you walked into the bunker, off to the side, there was a little room with a cot, and it had a steel door, so you could actually cot down. You could actually cot down one of his, and the other one stayed away. Now inside the bunker with you, we had a rock liaison because our fire support on that site was this rock battalion. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we had a liaison with us too. Now I'm going to tell you guys a story because Tom loves to talk about incidents and stuff like that. And this is what happened to me. Okay. So one time I was on duty with this Catoosa, and I was bunked down. Okay, this is that night, and when we were up there, we were armed. Okay, what we did is we had two magazines taped together. And on one side you had green tape, on the other side you had red tape.
That's the way we did it. Yeah, we did the
and
same.
all you had to do was flip it to go live.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay. So here I am. I'm crashed out. And I hear this ruckus in the other room. Well, you know what I did? I flipped the mag so fast you couldn't even blink. And before you knew it, I was out there ready to rock and roll on somebody. And before I was ready to pull on that trigger, I was that close. I mean, seriously. Before I was able to pull on that trigger, my site NCYC says, "Flip it now, flip it!" And he made that Katusa that fell asleep on duty do push-ups until he was tired, which never happened. That guy, his arms were rubber. And he asked me, he says, "Loehne, what's your excuse?" And I'm like, "No excuse, Sergeant." He says, "That's the right answer right there." What happened is we missed that call I was talking about earlier to the T-Talk about the weather. So, of course, they called the barracks and talked to my NCYC. Now, this guy, he went through Rock Ranger School, and he was airborne, had multiple hundreds of jumps. He was nothing to play around with.
I can imagine.
He crawled through the front window that was open. He crawled through. And that's how all that ruckus started. But we almost had us an incident inside that bunker. And that's when I discovered and that's when I discovered I could do it. If I needed to do it, I was ready. You know?
Yeah. So.
And another time we had an incident up there, that supply general, because he was so impressed with our site, he said, "Hey guys, whatever you want, you let me know." So we were all into weightlifting. Now let me tell you, I was bench pressing 350 pounds at that time.
Oh.
I was squatting 650. I was curling 75.
Whoa.
I only weighed 190 pounds. Okay? But all of us was into working out. And we had this boy from South Dakota that came there from a ranch, used to throwing cattle around and stuff. That wasn't enough weight that we had in there. He needed more weight. Okay? So we put in our requisition, the NCYC did, to our battalion, of course. He went through the proper channels. Battalion commander said, "Oh, no, you aren't getting no weight. You guys got what you need up there. You're fine." Well, he remembered what the general said. Went right on over the head, called the general. "Hey, General, we could use some weights up here." Now, I'm not kidding you. One day, we hear a whirly coming up there. And here comes the colonel from the battalion of the Rock Army. And he's shouting at the top of his lungs while he's running. He said, "Who sent helicopter? Who sent that helicopter? Nobody tell me about helicopter." He's about ready to take this helicopter out. No joke. The general almost started an incident up there bringing us our weight.
Gosh.
He was in a no-fly zone.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But that's how impressed he was with us. I got a call from him.
You know what? Who was was Woodall division commander then?
I don't remember.
I'm trying.
All I know is that sergeant major we had, he was nothing to play around with either. He was a Vietnam vet. He had a Ranger scroll on his right shoulder.
The division sergeant major? Oh boy, don't get me started there. You talking ACBs? That's another story. He's a POS, and I'll say it all right out.
Okay.
So right out. Okay.
He is. You would have to. No, I just say that because I won't get into personal things with friends. There's a long story to that one. But I know his family that he, let's put it this way, they drop crap on.
Oh, gotcha.
Wow.
Upset.
And I'll just leave it at that. And, I don't want to get into details, but I still...
into him too much. It was the general I liked.
Yeah, well, him, I met him before. But, just just put it this way: we had a first sergeant '88, almost beat the crap out of him in the order room. Yeah, well, that's because somebody was married to HCB's ex-wife, and he come in and got stupid, and Steve wasn't going to tolerate it. God bless his soul. Steve passed away 5 years ago. And, yeah, it's just, he's not all, you know, he may wear the pretty badges, but don't think he's the greatest guy in the world. He's not.
Oh,
I
did. Well, we had the similar thing with our, now, let me tell you this. Oh, God, you guys are going to laugh. So, right, I'm catching the big bird. And at this time, they put us on a civilian flight. I wasn't doing no max, nothing. Nice civilian flight. You could sit in the back and smoke cigarettes. I was a smoker back then. Watch movies, all this stuff. It was nice. I'm sitting right next to this guy that's going over to Korea with us, right? And I'm telling him everything. And I get to the turtle farm, guess who he is? He's my brand new first sergeant.
Oh, okay.
Tom knew everything about me already.
Oh, yeah, he knows.
First Sergeant Browning. Now, let me tell you, First Sergeant Browning, he was a real good soldier. I'd follow that man into combat anywhere. But anyhow, he was really into fitness. This guy was really fit himself. And, boy, when we did PT there at Hovey, you knew it. Anyhow, he was able to only stick with the 12-month tour, whereas I got extended because of that Gulf War business. I ended up doing 14 and a half months of my 12-month tour. Anyhow, we was wondering, who are we going to get for a new top? Well, I had this first sergeant over at Fort Hood, and I can't even remember his name. I don't think his name is even worth mentioning.
Okay.
One of my friends called him Slurpee because he sounded like Slurpee when he was talking. So we found out, oh no, Slurpee's going to be our first sergeant. Well, apparently, after I left, he was on the somebody hooked up a trailer wrong on the Humvee or something. I heard it was a lieutenant. Don't quote me on this stuff. This is all hearsay. Anyhow,
okay.
The trailer was not hooked up right, so they're out there on the hood trying to figure stuff out, and Odyssey nailed top. Broke his back.
Oh.
But I just found out not long ago that he actually made Command Sergeant Major.
All right.
So he must have righted himself. But when we knew him at Fort Hood, he had a problem with bringing his problems from home to work with him, and I'm pretty sure it was the other way around going home too. You know what I mean? You can't do that. You got to keep them separate. So,
that's true.
You know, he ended up getting a divorce and doing all this bragging stuff about his divorce and stuff when we came over to Korea, and I didn't want to hear it. You know. So anyhow, but my lieutenant, he found out that I was mechanically inclined. This is what got me off the DMZ guys. He's like, Loehne, you know how to turn wrenches? Oh yeah. Well, guess what? You're going to be my driver.
All right.
So when I wasn't driving the lieutenant, I was working on our platoon vehicle in the motor pool with the motor sergeant. And let me tell you, I love working on them Humvees. I ended up doing some third shop work. No, I didn't say that. That's the thing about serving overseas, guys, is, you know, they kind of look the other way sometimes on things.
That's true.
As long as you get it done.
You know, a friend of mine, David, an old Army friend of mine, we go back many years, and we still close friends. And but you know, back in the '90s, we always joked when we were both working as contractors by then in Korea. And you know, we always said, yeah, you got the United States Army, then you get the United States Army in Korea. Two different things.
Exactly. And you know
Yeah,
what? I
it was.
appreciated that, though. I appreciated that because all that garrison stuff we did at Fort Hood, that never would have flown over there.
Oh yeah, Korea was different. It was just so different in Korea. Even sometimes some of the stuff they named was different. I mean, you know, everywhere else like Pass C, In Korea, they call it T-sack.
Right, a lot different.
Korea.
Yeah.
You know, but,
a lot different.
A lot of things were a bit different in Korea, you know, compared to the rest of the army, and that's why we always said you got the you got the army, you got the army in Korea, and then you got the United States Army, and that's how we used to say it. And things just ran different, but you know, I tell, especially when we turned the Z over, you know, we had a real mission there too. You know, well, granted they did in Germany, but ours was a little more extreme and only one division. You know, so. You know, sometimes people don't realize, they just hear Cold War. They don't realize whether you're talking the Iron Curtain or the DMZ. You know, we had real missions to do.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and Korea was a bit more hazardous, but I have to laugh when, like, we interviewed my scout friend, Harold Mason. It was like, Harold, I think Levi remembers the story. Harold was told us he was in the guard tower up there on the East German border the one time, and
I remember that too.
Out of nowhere it came this hind D, and it just stopped. It stopped in front of the tower. Just, you know, it was aimed right at the tower, and Harold, you know, basically crashed his pants, I guess. You know, because he didn't know what the hind D was going to do. He saw all of a sudden this hind D just pull up and stop right in front of his tower. You know, of course it was on the East German side, but yeah, he said it just stopped and looked right at him. So, you know. He goes, you didn't know what to take on that, and because incidents,
Every now and then you saw things that you couldn't believe either, but you reported them. Like one day, I reported it. It's on somebody's records over there somewhere. But remember that little fire I was talking about in the DMZ that the North Koreans had?
Yeah.
So I'm looking through my ship to shore one day, and I see this really tall figure, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this ain't no North Korean. I looked at the uniform, and I was like, this guy looks like he's Russian.
What?
I'm not kidding you. And I reported it that way. I called it in to D-Talk. I said, there's somebody up here on this site, and he looks like he's Russian. He's too tall, and his uniform ain't like the others. And I don't know whatever came of that, but I'm telling you, that's what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, because 3rd Brigade actually was the division TOC up there in the DMZ. Everything went through 3rd Brigade TOC. You know, when we reported, you know, anything you called in went directly to the TOC there, 3rd Brigade ran. And so, because you got to remember, 3rd Brigade was the controlling authority up there. You know, like if you got, for example, if you got your interim scout certificate, it was signed by the 3rd Brigade commander. He was the signing authority.
Right.
So, and
yeah, that was a little point of contention with me, brother. That was another thing when I wanted to go get up on the DMZ for. A lot of us GSRs that were up there before, they got to wear that DMZ patch. And,
yeah.
Okay. We did.
See, I went up there and I thought, oh, I'll get one of those. And no. Our company commander, our new one, not the one that I was introduced to when I first got there, but our new one, said, no, that's not authorized anymore.
Okay.
That burnt me, man.
And see, it was authorized. Yeah, well, it was authorized locally in Korea. Of course, once you got back to your next any duty station outside of Korea, you had to take it off. And
now, mind you, I didn't go on those patrols or anything like that. I think I might have gone out on one patrol with the Humvee and set up a radar somewhere else, as I recall. But I didn't go on patrol per se. So I get that point. But I'm talking about guys that were GSRs and went up there and they just did what I did, and they were able to get that badge.
Yeah, well, you should be, and I would have to go back and read. There's different criteria for different people.
Right.
Even support people could get the Engine Scout badge, and you had to spend so much. I forget, you know, like for us, it was pretty much you just had to run 20 patrols. Well, we went up there one rotation, we ran 20 patrols.
I was
cab.
Yeah,
well, see, we rotated. we rotated in and out. Well, yeah, we rotated in, and out of there. So at 30 days at a time, supporting the infantry. We didn't, because our squadron with the CAV, you didn't go up there. We had other missions to do too, especially when the old air CAV. That changed in '88, and honestly, I didn't pay attention to it. But it used to be we had what we call Quicksaver, and it was QRF with the blues platoons. And so, what happened every 3 weeks, your troop got the detail. Well, every day you had to have one squad of scouts, 2 slicks, in this case Blackhawks by then, 2 Cobras, and 2 58 scout birds on standby. 24/7, and so that would rotate in. So 2 to 3 days a week, you're on QRF, and you couldn't go anywhere. You were stuck on camp. Even training-wise, you couldn't leave the camp because a lot of times the scouts, we got to take off and go out and do a training mission. We just go out and train outside of camp.
Right.
And but once you're on QRF, we couldn't even leave the camp for that. So we were stuck in camp. So. Of course, we didn't have to do CQ and that, no duties, because we had to be on call 24/7.
There you go. Right. That was a good thing.
That was a good thing. But there's another thing. There's another thing, brothers. I have to throw his name out there. My brother Mark Hug. He wrote some letters recently to the government, different government entities and such, because I agree with him. All of us guys that served up there on the Korean DMZ need to be treated equally.
Yeah.
And that's true. Thomas and I, we talked about that too.
And I'll never forget, at the time I was serving up there, brothers, at the very time I was serving up there, the Persian Gulf War broke out, and we had that AFKN network up there, and all they could cover was what was going on over there in the desert. And I'm sitting here thinking, what about us?
We called it the propaganda channel, but go ahead.
we were the forgotten soldiers in a forgotten place that nobody seemed to care about. See what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it always been like that, right?
And then you got people that are being treated differently, doing the same things up there. Like all of us should have an expeditionary badge. We should have a combat patch on our right shoulder, but no. They told us the firefights were too far and in between.
Oh wow!
Even Levi's time during Vietnam, the Vietnam War kind of took away from the Korea.
Oh yeah,
they took it back when Levi got there. He got there at the end of the DMZ, what they called the DMZ War,
right?
And even then it was overlooked because of Vietnam But even through the 70s, Korea's always been overlooked and forgotten.
Oh yeah, always.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
It should be fair across the board. I just found out recently that people serving at Camp Hovey, the rear, they're getting extra pay for being in a hazardous area. I didn't get none of that.
Oh, you kidding?
We didn't. We didn't get anything. No combat pay, no hazardous duty pay. Yeah, I heard that a couple of years ago. I said, what the flip is that?
Yeah.
I said, they're not even on the Z. We left the Z in '91, with the exception of the maybe 20 guys are at JSA. But JSA, they do strictly dog and pony shows. Some of the JSA guys, not to pick on them, but there's been some that, we did this. No, you didn't. The Rocks took over our sector. You guys their main mission is basically dog and pony shows. Is provide security if a family's on, but, they don't have that.
We had radar guys up there at the JSA. There's guys, I didn't get to do any JSA duty myself, but there was guys that did JSA duty up there with the radar.
Yeah. But I'm talking the guard posts and the actual the missions. I think they had a small sector they had to patrol, but it was minute compared to what we had to patrol.
Right.
And what we had to cover. Because, when we had patrols going, it wasn't just one patrol. It was 6 to 8 patrols going constantly. Day patrols and night ambushes.
Right.
So, and
And all that without any extra combat duty pay or nothing.
Wow,
no,
that's something
I
else.
just had blank rounds. We were carrying our M16. It's funny, it didn't look like blanks.
Right. Right.
And Thomas, we got combat pay all the time. I'm not sure, but I still believe when we went down south, we were still getting combat pay. You know, because we up 3 months, then we go down for 3 months down the Camp Custer. But
yeah, of course, when you got combat pay, what was it, about $20 a month?
no, I was $65. They call it hostile fire pay then.
Yeah.
Really, they gave you that much at the time, huh?
$65.
Now, let me tell you something else. You know, another thing that a lot of people like to talk about is the border here in the United States, right?
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a riot right here. This here guy. Part of our training out of Fort Huachuca is, you know, you actually got to work with the stuff you're working with, right? So they actually sent us down to Yuma. Okay, down there at the Marine Corps base there, the proving ground. And they took us right out there on the United States-Mexico border, and we set up our radar at night. We worked at night. I think we did this for about a week as part of our training. And that's what we did. We'd go out there and we'd pick up personnel coming across to the border, and we'd call up the Border Patrol, and they'd come yank them and take them in. How about that?
God.
So I actually did Border Patrol in the United States.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And when I went to Fort Drum, see, I had actually injured myself with all that weightlifting. They never gave me no training on weightlifting, and I messed up my shoulder pretty bad, guy. And, you know, I'm almost embarrassed sometimes to talk about. Well, I'm getting disability, and they're like, "Well, what'd you do?" And I hurt myself. Well, how'd you hurt yourself? Weightlifting.
Weightlifting, okay.
So anyhow, I got to Fort Drum. See, now you heard me. I started out armored, so I worked armored. Then I'm over in Korea, and that's mechanized. Here I am going to a light infantry unit. I never been to no light infantry school after basic training. So the first thing they do is have you go through this light fighter school. You've never been through that extra. And you know what, guys? I sucked it up, drove on, and I got the certificate to prove I graduated from that light infantry school.
Right.
And as soon as I was done with that, I reported to the stick callers. We called it back then WIMP call, and they gave me a T3 profile. So what are they going to do with this guy now? And let me tell you, this was actually pretty cool. See, they were changing the firing order for things. You know, 82nd was always first, right?
Right.
Whenever something happened, 82nd Airborne to go. Well, they were changing up from going to 101st after them to 10th Mountain Division. Okay? At this time. So 10th Mountain Division is trying to get ready for this role, okay? And what they had me do is they went and sent me to help with this mount training first. So I helped with this mount training, and some of that training I got with the Air Force actually helped me with that, which was cool. And then after that, they said, well, why don't you go to the war room? I'm like, what are you talking about? You'll see when you get there. So here I am representing the GSR in this war room, and I got officers asking me, well, where would you put this GSR team? In what circumstance would you put them there? So I had to use all my skills that I learned for placement and such like that in a war situation.
Oh, okay.
They did like a virtual war game.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
In a war room. That was kind of cool.
It's basically a CPX, command exercise, I forget. Command practice exercise. And, but see, you had the practical experience, too, of being a GSR in Korea, because you had to do it. So,
right.
And, I got because we're getting close. I know we're closing on.
Oh yeah,
time.
we getting very close.
Okay.
But I know Bob Kern was trying to do a book on the Romeos, and he said he's had a hard time getting other Romeos to respond to him. Is he going to incorporate you in the next DMZ book, or do you know, John?
He interviewed me already for the GSR book. So as far as I know, he's going on for the GSR book.
I know last time I talked to him, he wasn't getting the, he had a bunch, but he wasn't getting the responses. Because I think, when you do the GSR, I think, it'd be neat to get both sides, the DMZ and Germany on there.
Mm-hmm.
Cause,
that's what Bob liked about me. I went to Germany and Korea.
Yeah. So, and of course in Germany, all you do is like me, you stay at Grafenbeer and visit the beer tent and make sure it was standing.
Thomas, I heard about that good beer in Germany.
They sent me all over the countryside. I went to Munich and all over the place. It was fun. I have to admit it was fun.
Oh yeah, I got to go to a couple of reforgers, and so I always wanted to get. See, in '87, John, I can give you a quick story. 86, really, late '86. I was ready to get the heck out of Fort Raleigh, so I kept on submitting 481 87s, which for today's newer people, they won't know what that is. That was a form to do. How do you want to say it? Acquisition form, whatever. But I kept putting in 4187s to go to Germany. It's like I already been to Korea. I want to go to Germany, and I hear nothing for branch. So I think it was late '86. I put just one in for Korea, and wham bam, I was on levy. Like 2 months later. I was like, you got to be joking, but that's fine. I said, get me out of the States. I said, I wanted to go back to where the mission was, whether it was Germany or Korea. I didn't want to stay in the States, because back at that time, it's just stateside duty sucked, Levi. He'd just rather be overseas.
Yeah, I definitely didn't want to go back to stateside.
No.
Yeah. And so I went back to Korea. Of course, I ended up 3 years there on that tour. So,
well, guys, look like we got about 2 minutes left.
I was going to say, you're going to wrap it up. Go ahead, Levi. I'll let you finish out. You usually do.
Okay, I was just, John, you want to give anybody a shout out? You want, to your brother or anybody?
Oh, well, today was my first platoon sergeant's birthday.
Okay.
Shout out to Max Cavazos. Happy birthday, Max. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Thomas, I'm going to give one out to Harold Mason and Doug and Bob, because Doug was up there about the same time or I were.
Yeah, you and Doug, the old guys. Oh, I mean, you and Doug were there.
Yeah, we the ancients. That's all right. That's right.
see, Harold's younger than me by about 4 years.
Okay.
But, Harold's my scout buddy, but I'd like to get everybody a holler out, especially the ones we've had in the show, which include Bob, Mark, and so forth. Real quick, to give a lineup for next week. But let me take a step back. This broadcast, for everybody's knowledge, will start Tuesday. You can listen every night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central to the broadcast. So listen to, every week, every day we play. So come and listen.
Oh, yeah.
But next week we'll be interviewing Chris Shockey. Now, Chris, give a kind of a background. Chris is an Iraqi vet. Yeah, he spent time in Iraq with 3rd ID during the early 2000s, the beginning of the war. But Chris also spent time in Korea around 2000, 2001. He's an engineer, so he'll give us a different perspective of what it was like, and especially talk a bit about OIF. So Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Okay,
that'll be Chris.
All right, go ahead, Thomas.
Otherwise, so long, and we'll see y'all next week.
All right, we'll see you. And John, we really appreciate you coming on and discussing, your service with us.
Sure thing. I really appreciate it, guys.
All right. Well, we'll close it out. I want to tell everyone good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.